Coming in at number 5, we've got Allegheny National Park. We are going straight to the source here, Siren Head's creator himself. On May 9th, 2020, Trevor Henderson tweeted out an image without a caption. The black rectangle was full of text-based accounts of supposed Siren Head sightings all across Pennsylvania. Pittsburgh and Philly, you've been put on notice. Now, if you're in a city proper, you probably don't have to worry about too much. Probably. But if you head out into one of Pennsylvania's many forested zones, you might find yourself face to face with a gigantic terror. Or face to siren, I suppose. Either way, definitely not a situation anyone wants to find themselves in. However, there was a group of teens camping in Allegheny in 1984 that were a little less than fortunate. 4 young friends had departed on an overnight trip, meant to return home soon after. However, their parents didn't hear from them for days. This caused a small panic, followed by missing reports being filed. Before any search parties could be organized, one of the boys actually returned home. Simon Forrester showed up at his family home alone and disturbed. When questioned, he claimed that there was something huge in the woods that attacked him. He never got a good look at it and didn't mention anything about siren sounds, but some other details made people believe that it might have been Siren Head. Unfortunately, the other boys remained missing. About a year later, though, a sneaker fell down in front of a hiker from a high branch. It's believed that this shoe belonged to David Work, one of the missing campers. Siren Head victims have been found hanging from the tallest branches of trees in the past, which adds credence to this theory. Coming in at number 4, we've got Roblox. If you're gonna mention Minecraft in the last video, we're definitely gonna have to give Roblox a shout out in this one. With so many custom games in existence, it's no wonder that there are a few Siren Head experiences in Roblox. One of the first was made by Captain Spinks and plays a whole lot like the PS1 style game by Modus Interactive. The atmosphere is undeniable, with the bloodstreaked skies and wicked silhouetted environments adding a lot of creep to the craft. As you wander the woods, you're accosted by the sound of sirens, and at this point, we all know what that means. Then, Siren Head appears. A little less menacing than most, I'll admit, but the design of Siren Head is so good that even low-end versions can be intensely creepy. Although this one is sort of funny. This is probably a good first Siren Head experience if you're not sure how you'd handle seeing the being yourself. Another more in-depth game is known as Siren Head Rebirth. This one takes a more cinematic approach with lots of crazy lighting and weapons. Put together by Blue Cool Guy 98, Boxy Cola Thief, Auxorius, and Dr. Bibonic, Rebirth is a crazy experience. You're dropped into a dark field with a burning plane nearby. You have to navigate through the dark while avoiding a rapidly rotating Siren Head. Heck, there are even some more Henderson-esque cryptids included like Cartoon Cat, Bridgeworm, and Longhorse. If you're a fan of both Roblox and Siren Head, you could have your own sightings. Coming in at number 3, we've got Dreams. Speaking of fan-made video game content, has anyone checked out some of the horror experiences in Dreams? To be honest, I didn't think people would ever be able to make the kind of high-quality stuff we're seeing these days in the game. It's absolutely bonkers what folks are able to put together in a PS4 creation software. And while not totally interactive, Bad Robo managed to put together a spellbinding Siren Head sighting in Dreams. I mean, just look at it. It's gorgeous. The devil is absolutely in the details, with every inch of this demo filled with crazy elements. The light diffused through the twister, the multicolored sunset clouds, the wet grass and dirt, the trees swaying in the wind, and of course, Siren Head himself. This has to be one of the best moving Siren Heads I've ever seen. A lot tend to fall into the awkward category. Uncanny Valley is good for spook factor, but Siren Head is far enough from being human to look sort of silly if done wrong. Bad Robo's Siren Head moves slowly at almost a lumbering pace. However, it's so far away that you can tell it's actually covering a lot of ground really fast. All in all, an amazing render and a really cool experience. Coming in at number 2, we've got Gravity Falls. Yes, that Gravity Falls, the paranormal cartoon town in Oregon. Dipper and Mabel have faced down minotaurs, rainbow barfing gnomes, even Bill Cipher himself, so it was only a matter of time before they ran into Siren Head, right? Well, not officially, but Parkin Art has made such an excellent representation of it happening, it's hard to believe it never did happen. Imagine it, walking through your tiny rural town at night, knowing that something's lurking in the trees. Then all of a sudden, a huge lanky beast stomps into view. You'd run for your life too, wouldn't you? I suppose if they brought Siren Head to Gravity Falls, its violence could have to be toned down a little bit. As creepy as the show can get, I doubt anybody would be okay with exploding eardrums and folks disappearing wholesale. And they'd probably end up taking it down in a pretty comedic way. I've seen plenty of Siren Head as a friendly lad who wants a hug memes, which fits in pretty well here. Maybe they'd spend the whole episode running away only to discover that it was trying to return Dipper's hat or something. That would be an interesting take. And finally at number 1, we've got In the Hubbins Yard. We'll end the same way we started, with some lore from Trevor himself. This tale actually comes from the same image as number 5, but each piece seems so formative to Siren Head as a monster it's impossible to ignore. Back in 1978, 9-year-old Catherine Hubbins was investigating some strange noises in the woods across from her family's yard. She'd been hearing these noises for a while and wanted to get to the bottom of it. Courageously heading over to the forested area, Catherine was heading straight into disaster. See, she had told her sister about the sounds before. Apparently, sometimes it sounded like their mother calling to them from beyond the edge of the woods. Naturally, any 9-year-old would hear that and go check it out. However, her sister also had said that the voice was wrong and echoey. This could be a case of non-paranormal kidnapping, but consider how Siren Head operates. It's been known to stay still, camouflage in the woods for hours before snagging a victim. It also tends to use familiar sounds, especially the voices of loved ones, to lure people in. Add that to the wrong, all echoey voice, and you've got a Siren Head sighting from before anyone knew what Siren Head was. Or before it was popular, I suppose.
Number 5 on our list is a video that surfaced from a YouTuber named X71N. On November 19th, 2019, this YouTuber posted a video of what appears to be Siren Head in his home country of Saudi Arabia. Now, he leaves his home at nighttime because he's hearing some strange sounds coming from a place that's off limits. With his flashlight, he starts to explore and he finds some pretty unsettling stuff. First off, he spots blood. Quite a fair bit of it, in fact, on some rocks. Undeterred though, he keeps trekking on, but as he goes, a weather forecast echoes throughout the video. This forecast is for some dangerous weather happening in the area. Now, I'm not really sure why Siren Head would want this. I mean, one would think that it would actually drive people away from the scene, but in this instance, I suppose it worked because our YouTuber keeps going. He then looks up and bam, you can see the distinct image of a creature in the distance. An extremely tall, thin, humanoid thing with 2 sirens sticking out at the top of its body as it's standing on the top of a hill roughly 100 meters away from X71N. Naturally, he starts to run, but in the video his camera begins cutting in and out. Potentially the sounds that Siren Head is emitting are interfering with it, I'm not too sure. But as I stated earlier, Siren Head is fast and you can't outrun it. The YouTuber realizes this and instead opts to hide behind a rock. Clearly he posted the video, so obviously this worked out and he didn't get killed by Siren Head, but right at the end of the video, you see Siren Head only a few meters away walking past our YouTuber. Really quick thinking hiding behind the rock, or else Siren Head assuredly would have got him and we never even would have known about it because that video never would have got posted in the first place. Number 4 on this list is from another YouTuber named DX Army. This video was filmed in Tanyard Creek, and as we will look at later in our video, that site is particularly scary based on a Siren Head related crime many years prior. In the DX Army video, there is a party of a few boys with the mission to go out and see for themselves if Siren Head is the real deal, or if the story that they had heard is completely made up. Now, what makes this a little different, and the fact that I have it higher on this list than the other filmed encounter, is the fact that it was a live video. So editing after the fact or doctoring the video to add Siren Head, it isn't possible. After stumbling through the woods for quite a while, the group starts to hear some strange noises. Noises that don't make sense when you're in the middle of the woods at night. Starting to get a little bit freaked out, thinking that they may have actually stumbled upon something, they try to find their way back. But honestly, their sense of direction is truly atrocious. Moving through the woods pretty quickly, their biggest fears do become realized, and they stumble across what very clearly looks to be the outline of Siren Head. They obviously hightail it out of there and shockingly all survive, but that should teach them, and anybody else for that matter, that going out of your way and looking for Siren Head probably isn't the best idea. Number 3 on this list comes from a Reddit user named Isaiah. Isaiah is a 22-year-old who used to live in the rural areas of Oklahoma. He doesn't live there anymore though because of the encounter that he had with Siren Head. Now, the area that he used to live has a lot of tornadoes, and it wasn't uncommon to hear sirens warning people about such tornadoes. One afternoon while he was home by himself, he started to hear these sirens and assumed that it was just the tornado warning. But after he went to go check his phone, he realized that the tests, they weren't supposed to be scheduled for today. Isaiah quickly grabbed his dog and took her downstairs. He looked out the window to see what was going on, and in the distance, he saw a tall creature climbing out of the woods. Now, he couldn't make out exactly what it is, but as the sounds of Siren got louder and louder, he clued in. Siren Head. Scrambling around the house, he locked all the doors and shut off all the lights in his home and grabbed his noise-canceling headphones. He put his headphones on, but the sound of sirens kept getting louder and louder. He took another look out of the window, and Siren Head was directly outside. He then ran to the back of his basement and clutched his dog, and then silence. Now for a second, he thought it might be over, but then he hears his dead best friend. "Come outside, Isaiah. Come outside. I miss you." He wasn't fooled though, and held his ground in the basement. The friend's pleas got more and more desperate, but he didn't budge and turned the music up to max on his phone to block out all of the other sounds. After 30 minutes sitting in the basement listening to his music on blast, he went to check the window, and Siren Head was gone. He moved out of that home a month later, and he vowed to never live near a forest again. Number 2 on this list is from a Reddit user who claims she is a survivor of Siren Head. Kayla Prue is a 34-year-old woman who lives in Seattle. She had her encounter with Siren Head 8 years ago now, and is very lucky to still be alive and telling the tale. Now when she initially came forward about her encounter, she subbed in a bear in place for Siren Head. It was only after these drawings surfaced that she felt comfortable telling the whole truth. Off for a camping trip with her boyfriend at the time, Dylan Dobson, the pair was in a very remote area in British Columbia, Canada. They had been portaging that day and had just finished setting up their campsite and was just about to get a fire going. Right as they were doing that though, they heard some cracks in the trees. Startled, they turned around to take a look, but couldn't see anything. As they were checking their surroundings though, they heard the distinctive voice of a man that they'd encountered earlier that day on their canoe trip. He was saying, "Help, I'm hurt, and I can't get up, please somebody help me." The pair stopped what they were doing and went directly towards the voice, grabbing their flashlights since it was starting to get dark outside. The voice was getting louder and louder as they made their way through, and they thought that they were about to come upon it. Just as they got through a pile of trees though, that's when Siren Head appeared. The sounds of an excruciatingly large siren filled the air. Kayla still says that she has never heard anything louder in her life, saying that "I thought my ears were bleeding." Both immobilized by the sound for a second, Siren Head took his opportunity and smacked Kayla's boyfriend Dylan to the ground, where it proceeded to viciously tear his arm clean off of his body. Kayla saw Dylan's mouth moving in what she presumed to be a scream, but couldn't even hear the sounds due to the ringing of the sirens. To this day, she regrets what she did next, but she also realizes that there's nothing that she could have done. Kayla turns around and she runs, leaving Dylan to die alone at the hands of Siren Head. She runs through the woods as fast as she can, straight back to her campsite, not even stopping to grab any of her belongings. She jumps into the canoe that they had by the water and canoes for the next 5 hours straight to get back to where they had started. Now she says it has taken her countless trips to therapy to even get to the point where she is capable of talking about her experience. Now could I believe that this story was just a bear? Yeah, no, I could. Could I also believe that it was Siren Head? Yeah, maybe. At the end of the day, she believes that no amount of therapy will ever fix the guilt she feels or make her forget the brutal sound of Siren Head. Number 1 is the classic story from a man named Chad Gewick. This story is often regarded to be one of the first encounters with Siren Head that many people believe to be true, and therefore I felt like it was necessary to include on this list. 30 years ago, in a beautiful location called Tanya Creek, the same location our previous YouTubers were filming at, Chad and several of his friends were out hiking. This was sadly the last hike that many of them would take though. As they were traversing through the scenery, they took a moment to catch their breath. That was when they heard the sounds of, believe it or not, them. The sound was shifting and morphing, but it sounded as if they were speaking. This clearly spooked the group, but at this point, they were in a decent sized formation, and their curiosity outweighed the fear of what could be causing this noise. The sounds were coming from a little bit deeper into the bush than they were, so they had to abandon the path and head into the forest to see where these noises were coming from. As they got closer, the sounds grew louder and louder, and it truly sounded as if they were speaking. Then, before they knew it or could even respond, Siren Head was upon them. Snatching their bodies and chucking them as if they were action figures, he shredded through the group, brutally murdering every single one of them. Every single one of them except for Chad. Chad got knocked to the ground by Siren Head, but was able to survive. He did sustain some bumps and bruises, but was able to rally himself fast enough to run out of there and get to safety. His friends, They weren't so lucky though. When the authorities came back to that site, the bodies of his friends were gone, most likely dragged to Siren Head's lair, never to be seen again.
Coming in at number 5, we've got Whispering Hills. Hard to imagine a video game scarier than Silent Hill. The atmosphere, the monsters, the fog, it all comes together into a wholly unsettling experience. I know we're all disappointed that PT got shut down and that the more recent Silent Hills haven't quite captured the essence of the originals. However, if you're the kind of person who likes to mod their games, there might be a creepy surprise in store. There's a mod for Fallout 4 called Whispering Hills that tries its best to emulate the vibe of Silent Hill. Everything is enveloped in a layer of impenetrable fog, and ambient sounds are replaced with those from Silent Hill. At first, this mod added a whole new slew of creatures and killers from Silent Hill, from ghouls to monster nurses to the big lad himself, Pyramid Head. Now, you might be saying, Keegan, I thought this video was focusing on Siren Head, not Pyramid Head, and you're right. I just wanted to set the stage for the lanky monster himself. In Whispering Hills, there have also been sightings of Siren Head, wailing wanderer lurking through the wastes. He's at his creepiest off in the distance when the sirens are barely visible through the thick fog. You'll definitely hear Siren Head before you see him too. Emitting all sorts of wails and echoey sound bites, Siren Head adds to the super creepy ambience. And once you're aware of his presence, everything gets real unnerving. In the end though, Siren Head might be better as an environmental feature, something off in the distance. It's dangerous for sure, but once you get up close and personal, it seems less scary. The model is excellent, but it moves in a sort of funny way. Attacking and walking looks sort of awkward as Siren Head swings his lanky arms and legs. Still, if you like Fallout or Silent Hill or Siren Head, it's worth experiencing. Coming in at number 4, we've got cave paintings. This is, well, not really what anybody expected. Usually when a new monster makes an appearance, it's some relatively new creation, especially when it's 40 feet tall and has what appears to be sirens where its head should be. You take one look at Siren Head and would probably think that it somehow adapted those sound blasters from human technology. But if we take a look at these ancient cave paintings, it becomes apparent that this is not the case. According to Trevor, there have been depictions of Siren Head engaging in combat with ancient humans found all over North America. This indicates that Siren Head is not necessarily the new species we might have thought it was. It also implies that it's either quasi-immortal and has survived for generations, or that there's more than one Siren Head. Both are terrifying prospects. Now, what we also have to consider when breaking down these cave paintings is the fact that we've only recently come to know of Siren Head's existence. So how did it stay off the general public's radar for all these years if people have been fighting it since the time of cave drawings? Maybe there's something else going on, something sinister behind the scenes. Worst of all, these cave paintings seem to illustrate that we've never really had a good way to deal with Siren Head. We as humans are more or less powerless against this mighty, freaky being. So I propose this. We should start a new religious movement worshipping Siren Head. The Church of the Loud One? Maybe we'll have some mercy rained down upon us. Coming in at number 3, we've got Minecraft Siren Head. There are only 2 things that are certain in life: death and taxes. But this phrase might need an update because I've noticed a third more recently. If something is popular, it will get put into a million Minecraft YouTube videos. Right now, Siren Head is that meme and therefore must exist in every possible capacity, Minecraft mods included. There are a few different versions out there right now, but the one I was able to find out a little more about adds Siren Head among other horror-themed creatures. It adds a feature that spawns Siren Head from corruption blocks, creating a whole new monster for players to do battle with. It's really big and doesn't seem to move around much. It would be cool if it was lumbering around like the Siren Head in Whispering Hills, but maybe that'll come soon. One thing it will do is swing its arms wildly if you attack it, and these flailing limbs are quite dangerous. One hit and you're dead, just like real life. This mod is essentially adding a boss mob, augmenting the nightmares of Minecraft players for the next little while. There are even folks who claim to have run into Siren Head in unmodded versions of the game. They've posted stories on creepypasta wikis about encounters with huge, noisy creatures that cause not only Minecraft to glitch and freeze up, but other programs and apps too. There's no corroborating evidence in these cases, but if they say they saw Siren Head, who am I to deny them? Coming in at number 2, we've got a multi-headed variant. Recently, Trevor's unveiled a couple more variants on the classic Siren Head. None are as terrifying as this one though. It appears as though there are many versions of this creature, each with adaptations that make it deadlier. On March 23rd, he tweeted a photo of what appears to be a gigantic humanoid with long arms and bad posture, towering over some houses in a residential development. Attached is a short text snippet, seemingly from a news publication, detailing a terrible tragedy. It starts partway through a sentence. Many missing, but rumors of a significant amount of the population found dead in their homes or the streets nearby, with the corpses having burst eardrums and soft tissues. Now, prior to this image, Siren Head was known to take down singular people, maybe small groups, but entire neighborhoods? That's intense. This supports the idea that Siren Head does not kill out of necessity too, if he's leaving all those corpses behind. And if one can walk through a neighborhood and annihilate all sorts of folks through what we can only assume is concentrated sound, who knows what it can do next? If you take a closer look at the image, you might notice something interesting around the head. It has a cluster of sirens up there, different from how it's being depicted in the past. Unsettling, upsetting, unexpected. If you're interested in more sightings, maybe give Trevor a follow to make sure you're up to date. And finally at number 1, we have 0F3FAD-AD4E0F. Golden Lane Studio put this video out a while back. Best known for their Five Nights at Freddy's shorts, they uploaded some animated handheld footage of a person exploring a government-controlled area. Those numbers in the title are likely some sort of coordinates. This kind of footage tends to be bad news for those expecting a pleasant walk in the park. He strolls around, seemingly searching for something in particular. His camera work is shaky and often unfocused, adding to the tension. Their purpose is revealed when they mistake some power lines for Siren Head and a bit of superimposed text. Speak of the devil, right? Because almost immediately afterwards, a car alarm goes off, prompting the camera person to whip around. It's then that we see a real Siren Head emerge from the darkness and stride towards the hapless recordist. After a brief chase, they hole up in an abandoned home, listening to the sirens blare outside. Siren Head can be seen passing by a window just as the camera person thinks that it's safe, and then one of the inner doors creaks open. The camera person heads towards the opening, and something strange is there. But there isn't enough time to find out exactly what, though, as Siren Head crashes through the wall and the video feed cuts out. Well, there seems to be more Siren Head sightings cropping up every day. It's only a matter of time before you see one yourself, right? Coming in at number 5, we've got the TikTok sighting. If you've been online over the past week, you've likely seen some iteration of this video. Sure, it's been memed to hell at this point, with all sorts of viral songs being edited over it to make it look like the lanky lad has hit some funky dance moves, but the original is creepy as all get out. Let's take a look at the video posted by TikTok user AlexHoward_. Yeah. Wow. Up until this point, I'd always assumed that Siren Head was a few dozen feet tall, not a few hundred. But that change in scale really boosts the terror, doesn't it? When Siren Head is telephone pole height, it's a horror villain that might take out a few loose teens in the forest. When it's Godzilla size, we have an entire disaster movie on our hands. Absolutely bonkers. The way he shifts back and forth with the eerie sound of Chicago tornado sirens pitched down washing over the city makes you feel like the world is really ending. And if you take a look at the comments on the video, some people seem to think it really is. As the Siren Head lore becomes more and more muddled with popularity, there are a whole lot of folks who see a relatively realistic looking video like this and assume that someone actually captured a video featuring a horrific monster. So somebody go and let them know that it's all gonna be okay. Coming in at number 4, we've got the graveyard incident. I believe this is the earliest known sighting of the lad we all know today as Siren Head. Back during the glory days of Tumblr, Trevor Henderson shared an image of the spindly creature towering over a graveyard atop a hill. It's a clear sunny day, which doesn't usually make for great horror backdrop. There's a certain grain to the image too, adding to the creepy appeal. The photo's accompanied by some text outlining the origins of the legend. A couple was vacationing and decided to take in some local graveyards. Classic morbid couple activities, right? Well, when they arrived at this particular cemetery, the most notable feature was the large art piece sprouting from the middle. At first, the woman wasn't concerned. Seeing something like that standing in the middle of a field must be an installation of some sort. No sane person would assume it was a creature, but oh boy, that changed quickly. Stepping out of her car, she heard the megaphones on its head turn on immediately and starts screeching. 9, 18, 1, child, 17, remove, vile. The short, jarring snippets of radio noise that we've all come to expect at this point. But imagine being the first person to experience this. Jaw-dropping, pants-soiling, scary stuff. Then Siren Head came to life, walking its terrifying long-legged walk towards their car. The post ends there, leaving what happens next very much so up to your imagination, which in all honesty is a much scarier place to leave readers when coming up with some extra details. So what do you think happened to the woman and her boyfriend? Coming in at number 3, we've got the Pine Ridge hiking trail. So I thought this was a strictly fictional location at first, but a cursory Google search shows that the Pine Ridge hiking trail is indeed a real place. It's part of the Ganaraska hiking trail. All the more Canadian locations to flesh out that Canadian lore. Hell yeah. Unfortunately, the Siren Head sighting that happened here was purely digital, although who knows? Maybe it was based on a real encounter. One of the first major interactive experiences featuring Siren Head was a game by Modus Interactive. This PS1 style adventure drops you in the middle of a deep dark wood. The old school textures and sounds really do quite a lot to enhance the eerie atmosphere. As you stroll through the sunset-soaked wilderness, a horrific siren begins to sound. You discover bits and pieces left behind by other unlucky hikers, such as backpacks, pieces of shirts, and more. Large scratch marks point to something sinister lurking in the darkness. The further you walk down the trail, the further the sun sinks below the tree line, and then a terrible discovery is made, and he's there. Siren Head. The lumbering, lanky lad in all his low poly glory, silhouetted against a scorched sky. And from there, all you can do is run, and run, and run. If you flee, Siren Head emits all sorts of disquieting noises from static to sirens to radio babble. Make it to your truck and you're home free, for now. Stick around and see what happens, and well, you won't be sticking around long. Siren Head doesn't like to miss out on meals. Coming in at number 2, we've got Beachfront Chaos. This reminds me of something from a kaiju movie. It's stark and scary and realistic in ways that I don't know if I can fully comprehend. It implies a universe in which monster settings like this are possible, which I love. I want a whole book based on this image, or a movie, or an animated series. Whatever it is, I think this is fantastic. Great work, Anti-Dark Heart. Check her out on Twitter. This is another extremely giant take on Siren Head, and the way it's set up makes it work so very well. Imagine being one of the 2 people cowering on the beach. The absolute mind-numbing dread that accompanies the sight of a creature like that. The fact that it seems to be rising out of the fog, dwarfing everything in the comprehensible vicinity. The panicked birds who just moments before were resting on what they assumed was a gigantic tree or telephone pole of some sort. And there's nowhere to run. Whether you pick the ocean or the sand, you're out of luck. The perspective also implies some sort of photographer who would then share this image with the world. Do people across the globe panic at the first sight of a new terror? Or is this a well-established creature and everyone but these 2 beachgoers is evacuated? So much is left unexplained, but the mood of the picture says so much. Would you run towards a Siren Head in this situation, arms wide open, accepting of your fate? Or would you attempt to escape and live to tell the tale? Coming in at number 1, we've got the Eastern Europe encounter. For our final sighting, I figured I'd treat you all to a 2-parter. YouTuber Jojo Pastierson has edited 2 clips of her encounters with Siren Head in Eastern Europe. Wandering around desolate and downtrodden areas, she captures some terrifying sounds coming from the distance. As she parades around, it seems that Siren Head is getting closer and closer. But it never gets close enough to be of any danger, which is why we're still able to count Jojo as one of the living. There are 2 videos done in this style, each creepy in their own way. One is set during the day, and the other as the sun is falling below the horizon. Either situation would be terrifying, but personally I think daytime Siren Head is scarier. To see the wrinkles and wires and rusted skin in full detail would be too much for my fragile little brain. Would you be able to keep the camera on and search for Siren Head, or would you hightail it out of there as soon as possible? Now, most of the sightings, and these 2 included, feature prominent siren noises and static along with some short bursts of words, but Siren Head's been known to use his sounds to affect people directly, whether through a familiar sound or the voice of a loved one. Thankfully, nobody's caught this on video yet, because I don't think we're ready for that discovery. Suffice it to say, I would never want to encounter Siren Head out in the wild. I'm perfectly happy looking at images from the safety of my computer and waiting for Trevor to drop more lore bombs in the coming days. And as Siren Head gets more and more popular over the next little while, I'm sure we'll see plenty more of his megaphone dome. Maybe it'll reach Slenderman level hype, with everyone and their grandma looking for an angle. It'll be interesting to watch unfold. Coming in at number 5, we've got Len Lovecraft's Sunset Sighting. As the summer months drag on, more and more folks will be posting pictures of the lovely sunsets they see. Everyone loves a good nuclear orb lowering in the sky, and we've got smartphones these days. Snap a pic, toss it on a social media story, rinse, repeat. Except some pictures tend to be a little more creepy than others. But sunset shots are so, well, expected at this point, you might just click through without seeing what's really interesting. Take this photo for example. Len Lovecraft posted it on his Twitter in early July with the following caption: "I have this habit. Sometimes on the drive back from work, I get lucky and catch a nice sunset, so I take a picture. It wasn't until later that I took a good look at what I'd captured. I think I'm going to be taking another way home." Seems like pretty standard sunset fare, with some cars on the road ahead, traffic lights giving Len an opportunity to stop and snap a shot, and wait, that's not a telephone pole or a power line. Uh-oh. The thing is, I doubt that taking a different way home will stop Siren Head from catching up to you if it really wants to. I wonder if any of the other drivers saw it too. Coming in at number 4, we've got Forlorn Foundry's The Siren Calls. If you're at all familiar with the filmmakers known as Forlorn Foundry, you know what you're in for here. They tend to make all sorts of spooky and sometimes goofy live-action SCP videos. It seems like they've made an exception to their largely SCP-focused content to put together a wicked little fan trailer for a Siren Head movie. Remember folks, Siren Head is not an SCP. In this trailer, we're treated to some old camcorder footage of a family seemingly on vacation. Looks like they've made a trip up to the cottage with hammocks and tree climbing and all sorts of other fun summer activities. The footage is a little grainy, but that's just the technology of the time, right? Look a little closer though, and you'll find that there are some less than savory elements lurking in the background. In the woods, a siren can be picked out of the foliage. Along a dark road at night, one might be able to see a long limb or two. The scariest of all comes from the vantage point of a high up hill. Fog fills the valleys as someone tapes a child running around. As they pan, the camera picks up a siren poking out of the fog. They turn further and another one appears. The sound of sirens overtakes the distorted guitar track and whoever's behind the camera starts to panic. It's a deeply unsettling experience, pairing the supposedly found footage with close-up shots of a missing persons report. If that sounds like your kind of jam, go check it out. Who knows, maybe a feature-length endeavor's in the works. Coming in at number 3, we've got a coloring book. You would think that the realm of black and white big print children's books would be safe from monsters, right? Maybe you'd run into some vampires and mummies around Halloween, but in largely harmless forms. However, it seems that Siren Head and a host of other Trevor Henderson creatures have made their way into a coloring book for everyone to enjoy. That's right, Siren Head has been cited in the Fun with Monsters coloring book. Flip through over 18 pages of between the lines craziness, but you didn't expect that to make the list, eh? Human Person, also known as Matt Pierce, put together this lovely little tome and packed it full of well-known Henderson-verse creatures. In addition to Siren Head, there's also Bridgeworms, Big Charlie, Longhorse, Cartoon Cat, and so many more. So if seeing photos and videos wasn't enough, now you can print and color Siren Head yourself. I'd personally do it up in bright pinks and blues, although that might detract from the spooky factor. If this is something that does tickle your fancy, you can actually buy the complete coloring book online right now, or print out the PDF from the comfort of your own home. If your printer starts making weird wailing noises, just ignore it. Everything will be okay. Coming in at number 2, we've got more Alex Howard sightings. Remember that render of the absolutely enormous Siren Head wreaking havoc in a downtown area? You know, the one that blew up on TikTok and featured the Chicago Sirens? Well, the guy who made that one has put out a few more, and boy are they unsettling. In mid-May, Mr. Howard posted a video with the caption, "This thing keeps following me." It starts with a vertical video moving through the trees and seems like it might just be a paranoid person recording their point of view. Watch a little longer though and the threat becomes apparent. Siren Head, towering over trees and power lines, is lumbering along behind him, awash in the glow of a sunset. A little longer and it'll be dark out. Then you're really in trouble. Another post by the same guy showcases a particularly odd telephone pole at the side of a country road. But wait, that isn't a telephone pole, is it? Siren Head's long arms and legs are on full display here, swaying back and forth as it waits for an unlucky motorist to stop on the side of the road. It really does blend in with man-made infrastructure. Makes you think what else it could use as camouflage. And finally at number 1, we've got the Sunset Hunter. It truly seems that sunset is the most common time to catch a glimpse of Siren Head. Trevor himself posted this new sighting where it seems that Siren Head is really doing its best to blend in with stuff that humans have made. Along with a striking sunset silhouette, he also included some additional lore which may be of interest to you folks. Apparently, it can make adjustments to its body in order to blend in better with its surroundings. In this case, Siren Head can pop its limbs in towards its body and lengthen its middle to look more like a telephone pole. This strategy is used when stalking prey, and again, Siren Head can remain motionless for extended periods of time. One truly terrifying detail that Trevor added is that it isn't uncommon for someone living in a neighborhood to notice a new telephone pole and then realize that it disappeared soon after. Oh, and the neighbors are gone too. Weird. Most sightings have taken place in less populated wooded areas, but lately it seems as though Siren Head is venturing out into more urban environments. It's taking advantage of the fact that folks often don't look up when just walking around. Because really, when was the last time you purposefully looked up to see the top of a telephone pole? Maybe incorporate that new habit into your daily routine. It's for your own good. Alright, we're all caught up now. Doesn't it worry you that Siren Head is slowly but surely making its way out of the woods and into the suburbs and urbs? Keep an eye out.
Number 5, the first sighting. In some of the backstory Trevor Henderson supplied for the character, the creature's origins state that it was first discovered in the early 60s. The first reported canonical sighting of Siren Head being in 1966, when a family that was on vacation to Arizona took an innocent photo, only to discover the maniacal creature had been lurking in the background. Now, initially being dismissed as some sort of camera error, the creature was relatively unknown until 20 years later in '96, when a young man and his friends were taking a similar vacation to Tanyard Creek, also in Arizona, when their trip was disrupted by the creature. The friends noticed something gigantic striding through the trees that was able to mimic their voices. All of the campers, save for one survivor, were felled by the creature, while the one remainder went on to spread the legend of Siren Head, emboldening it in the annals of modern folklore. It's said as well that there are ancient depictions of Siren Head that predate the sightings in Arizona, found on ancient rocks or cave paintings, indicating the Siren Head is not a new species or creature and has been around a lot longer than we think. There have been reports too of the creature being seen with variations in place of the speaker head that has become iconic, with other things like lampposts or jagged metal. It's unknown if this is to intone that the creature can change its head around, or if perhaps there are different species of the Siren Head out there. And if you're looking for way more stories about urban legends, cryptids, internet scares, we've got all of that and then some. If you can think it up, the odds are good we've done 2 or 3 freaky videos on it. So click on through, please subscribe if you like, and if you do, make sure to hit that little bell so you don't miss a single scream. But do that after you're done with this video, okay? Because I got 4 more Siren Head stories coming for you right now. Number 4, the hike. Our next story is called The Hike, and it goes like this. It was a dark, misty night as John, a seasoned hiker, embarked on a solo adventure in the remote wilderness. He had heard rumors about strange sightings and eerie sounds in the area, but dismissed them as folklore. As he made his way through this dense forest, a chilling sensation of being watched crept up his spine. Suddenly, a distorted noise, much like the distorted wail of a siren, pierced through the silence. John's heart raced as he scanned his surroundings, trying to locate the source of this sound. He found the mist growing thicker around him, obscuring his vision and heightening his stress. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly, terribly wrong. In the distance, through the haze and fog, a towering figure emerged. It stood at least 40 feet tall, with an unnaturally slender body and limbs resembling towering metal poles. As John strained his eyes, he noticed 2 massive sirens where a head should have been, emitting an eerie, otherworldly sound that shivered down his spine. Paralyzed by fear, John watched as the monstrous entity moved with slow, deliberate steps, its sirens wailing in an unsettling pattern, creating a terrible symphony of dissonance. Its body seemed to blend seamlessly with the surrounding trees, camouflaging itself disturbingly efficiently. As Siren Head came closer, John could make out some of the details of its grotesque form. Rust-covered metal plates adorned its body, giving it an aged and weathered appearance. The creature's legs were disjointed, creaking with each step, as if they hadn't moved in years. The sirens continuing their haunting chorus, echoing through the forest. Filled with both terror and curiosity, John's instincts told him to run, but his curious nature compelled him to stay. He reached for his camera hoping to capture evidence, but his hands trembled uncontrollably. And just as quickly as it had appeared, Siren Head retreated back into the depths of the forest, disappearing into the fog. The sirens would fade, leaving behind an eerie silence. John was left standing, shaken and bewildered, unsure of what he had just witnessed. He would make his way back, his mind racing with unanswered questions. Was that his imagination or something sinister? The whole experience burned into his memory, a chilling reminder of the terrifying nature of the unknown. Number 3, the storm. Our next short Siren Head story is called The Storm, and it goes a little bit something like this. In the heart of a small, secluded town, a young girl named Emily lived with her family. The town was surrounded by dense forests, shrouded in an air of mystery. Emily was always drawn to the supernatural, her imagination running wild with curiosity. It would happen one fateful night that a storm was raging outside, and Emily awoke to an unsettling sound. The wind howled through the trees, sounding like the eerie wail of a siren. Intrigued, yet slightly apprehensive, she peered out her bedroom window, expecting to see nothing more than the rain-soaked streets. To her astonishment, the towering figure of the Siren Head emerged from the darkness, its sirens blaring with an unsettling harmony. The creature stood just beyond the reach of the streetlights, its elongated limbs blending seamlessly with the shadows. Fear pumped through Emily's veins, but an inexplicable fascination held her gaze, locking on to the imposing figure. Siren Head turned its siren-filled head in her direction, as if sensing her presence, and a shiver ran down her spine. The storm raged on, and yet Emily felt a deep connection with the creature. She sensed an ancient sadness emanating from it, a longing to be understood. Ignoring her instincts, she ventured outside, drawn by this overwhelming desire to console the mysterious being. Approaching cautiously, Emily extended a trembling hand towards Siren Head. To her surprise, the creature lowered the sirens acknowledging her presence. The deafening wails subsided for a moment, replaced by a low melodic hum. In that moment, Emily felt a surge of empathy and understanding. She realized that this creature was not a monster but a lonely entity, yearning for companionship. With each passing moment, this connection deepened, transcending the boundaries of fear. But dawn would approach, and Siren Head retreated back into the shadows, bidding farewell with a mournful siren. Emily watched in both awe and sorrow as the creature vanished, knowing their encounter was but a fleeting, otherworldly bond. Beautiful, in a way. Number 2, The Journalist. The next story is titled The Journalist, and I think I know it well. My grandmother used to tell it to me, I think. It goes a little bit something like this. Deep in the heart of a sprawling city, a journalist named Alex was on the hunt for a captivating story. Rumors of a mysterious creature haunting the subway had piqued his interest. Armed with a camera and an insatiable curiosity, Alex descended into the darkness, ready to uncover the truth. As he ventured deeper into the labyrinthian tunnels, an eerie silence hung in the air. A distant hum of the city above was replaced by an unsettling stillness. Suddenly, the haunting sound of sirens filled the underground chamber, echoing off the cold, damp walls. Alex's heart raced, realizing he wasn't alone. From the shadows emerged the towering figure of the Siren Head. Its metal-like frame stood motionless, sirens blaring with that otherworldly resonance. Alex's hands trembled as he captured the creature's presence through the camera lens, documenting the encounter. In an unprecedented moment of daring, Alex mustered his courage and stepped closer, driven by this thirst for truth. As he stood face to Siren with Siren Head, he noticed something unexpected. The creature seemed to have eyes glimmering of sorrow, a depth of emotion hiding beneath its menacing exterior. Alex's instincts had told him that Siren Head yearned to communicate, to convey this message that lay dormant within it. The journalist reached out tentatively, offering a hand in a gesture of understanding, and in that moment, a connection formed between the human realm and whatever the enigmatic world that Siren Head came from. But much like the last story, as swiftly as it arrived, Siren Head receded into the darkness, leaving Alex with an unspeakable sense of wonder and loss. The echoes of the sirens would fade, leaving behind an emptiness that only deepened his yearning for answers. From that day forward, Alex found himself consumed by this encounter, driven to uncover the creature's origins. His photographs and testimonies would become a beacon, a testament to the existence of a being that defied explanation, a being known as the Siren Head. And finally, number 1, The Storm. This story describes an imaginary encounter with someone, a normal person living in a regular town, encountering it. Take a listen. Just imagine you live in a rural town that was evacuated days ago due to reasons you aren't yet aware of. You ride your bike to a nearby gas station, trying to take advantage of the absence of people. It's 1 a.m. and the stars aren't even visible because of light pollution. Everything around you is still, very still, as if time itself had stopped. No crickets chirping, no birds whistling, no cars driving. You arrive at a gas station after a bike ride and it's conveniently but unsettlingly empty. Despite intending to loot everything you could, you were kind of hoping to find someone behind the register, someone you could just talk to. You grab everything you can and stuff it into your pockets. You exit the station and you hear the faint sound of a siren and you freeze. You calm yourself saying it's just the evacuation sirens again, but you know that it can't be. Because the siren that it would be coming from is on a pole right in front of you. To your dismay, the siren stops, leaving you in total silence. You begin to ride back home. 6 minutes into the ride back, the siren returns, only this time much, much louder. The shock of the noise freezes you. You fall off your bike, frozen with shock. And you hate the fact that you react this way. You always imagined yourself running when in uncertain or terrifying circumstances, but alas, you freeze here. You hear treetops rustling like bushes, twigs and branches snapping violently off them. Finally, you snap out of it and you begin to run home. The siren is getting deafeningly louder with each passing second. Your heart is hastily pounding against the walls of your chest. You don't even know what the hell you're running from. You sprint past an abandoned car and in the faint reflection, in its dusty side view mirror, you see it. An unspeakably tall being with mummified skin, small veins poking throughout. The smell of death, covered in flies, 2 sirens in the place of a head. You yell every expletive you've ever known. You run faster, all you can hear is the blaring sirens and the ringing of your ears. You run at your fastest speed, but every step it takes is 10 for you. It reaches forward and grabs you by the neck with its cold hands, and you scream into the starless, unforgiving night. It lifts you up to one of its sirens, dull, crimson-stained teeth. You try to let out one last scream, but it tightens its grip. You close your eyes and feel the worst pain and anger that you've ever experienced, and then nothing.
Filling out our number 5 slot, we've got Siren Head's origins. So where did Siren Head come from? Well, this towering monstrosity was created by Trevor Henderson, also known as @Slimy Swamp Ghost. He tweeted out an image of the loud-speakered Leviathan in 2018, and the rest is history. Henderson is a prolific monster maker and often draws terrifying creatures incorporated into digital photos to evoke a wickedly creepy response. Most of these beings come with a short, spooky story to give some context too. Make sure to check out more of Trevor's work if you're a fan of Siren Head. Since the original tweet, Siren Head's mythos has expanded greatly. Artists and enthusiasts everywhere scrambled to find out more about the lanky beast and made sure to provide their own interpretations. Soon enough, official details were released to the public. This is what we know so far. Siren Head is approximately 40 feet tall, or about the size of a telephone pole. It's covered in what looks like rusted metal, but if you give it a closer look, you'll notice that it's actually dried, mummified skin. This lad needs some lotion. His skin is jerky to the point of looking like scrap metal. Extending out from his torso, Siren Head's arms are as long as his body, with knuckles almost dragging along the ground. This gives an appearance similar to a gibbon. I can only imagine how far those reach in a chase scenario. Oh boy. There are wires that wrap around its abdomen and chest that writhe around when it's agitated. The iconic loudspeakers on its head are made of metal and therefore are the only metal on Siren Head's body. They appear to be fused to its flesh and have been depicted as containing a nasty set of teeth and a long tongue. These sirens are able to rotate around, not unlike the head of an owl. There are many theories concerning where Siren Head came from, but like all good cryptids, it's hard to explain just how it originated on our dear sweet planet Earth. Coming in at number 4, the Sirens. So I mentioned the lovely speakers fused to the tip top of our flesh-covered telephone pole before, and they aren't just for show. There have been reports of the megaphones pumping out odd music and sounds. No discernible pattern has been discovered, and it seems to play all sorts of different genres. These sounds and songs are often distorted and full of static. Imagine how creepy that would be, hiking through the woods in complete silence, and then all of a sudden you hear an old crackling jazz standard. Start dancing now, cause it might be the last chance you get. If Siren Head is perturbed or senses prey, it will sometimes angrily shout random words and numbers. There's also a loud, shrill noise that might remind someone of an air raid siren. This has an extremely disquieting effect on anyone who hears it. When sleeping, Siren Head produces constant white noise. It sounds almost peaceful. However, don't be drawn in by its less threatening noises. Just because it's asleep does not mean it's not dangerous. The last, most terrifying thing that Siren Head will do with its speakers is imitate human speech. Why is that so terrifying? Well, I mean, anything inhuman that mimics us usually ends up at the bottom of the uncanny valley, and hearing human speech come out of something like Siren Head is pretty uncomfortable. But there's a very specific reason why this copycat is bad news, and we're about to find out. Coming in at number 3, it hunts humans. What else would this malnourished monolith do? It was put on this earth to scare us and then eat us, the perfect creature. No one is quite sure how this process works though, as anyone who's been close enough to get devoured, well, got devoured. Those teeth are probably put to good use though. It's also unclear why Siren Head consumes Homo sapiens, or if it even benefits from the process. Does it require human nutrients to live? Doesn't seem to be the case. Maybe it feeds on fear and then transplants our bodies to another time and space. Either way, you want to avoid this guy in the woods. Siren Head usually snatches up hikers, campers, and other forest-dwelling folk, although it's not uncommon for people who live in communities near forests to go missing too. He's always around wooded areas. Being as tall and skinny as a telephone pole means Siren Head can blend in well with trees. It can also stay perfectly still for long periods of time, which is great for camouflage. All of this makes it seem like Siren Head is already adept at hunting humans, but like I was saying before, it can also imitate human speech. Often it will mimic the voice of a loved one or a person in distress to lure in victims. Aggressive mimicry at its finest. This makes it an extremely dangerous predator, because anyone who doesn't know any better will follow these sounds to their source. Unfortunately, instead of running into their mom or a hiker with a broken leg, they find themselves face to face with a 40-foot fiend. Although many people don't seem to mind that Siren Head is a dangerous predator, fans will just say it's misunderstood. A friend you haven't met yet. Lots of people even made art and memes portraying Siren Head as a wholesome forest neighbor, asking to borrow cups of sugar and playing cheerful music. And while this is a fun notion, maybe don't assume the best when you run into this spindly specter. At number 2, we've got scary video games. In addition to all the bone-chilling art featuring Siren Head, there are also a few video games featuring the Screecher in the dark. And why wouldn't they? Siren Head is a fantastic antagonist for a horror game. It makes for some fantastic sound cues, creepy atmosphere, and terrifying chase sequences. Plus, how's a human protagonist gonna take it down? A lot of these take cues from the indie survival horror games of the past decade. Often set in a poorly lit location, the main character must find their way to an objective while avoiding the cold embrace of a terrifying monster. One such game is Callum Fraser's Siren Head. The game has been described as a short and atmospheric retro PlayStation style first-person shooter. Although it's not very long, the game does a fantastic job of instilling fear in the player. The low poly style is gorgeous and adds to the tension. You take on the role of a park ranger looking for a missing hiker, and when you discover the grisly truth, Siren Head appears. The shambling, swaying Siren Head screams out random sound bites and siren noises as it chases you through the woods. This is one of the best representations of Siren Head that I've seen to date. If you're interested in playing this one though, follow the link down below. Siren Head mods have also been made for open world games like Gmod, Minecraft, and Roblox. They all seem to follow a similar structure, with the telephone terror chasing you through the dark. As the iconic monster reaches a wider audience, I am sure that more terrifying stories will crop up. And finally, our number 1 scariest fact about Siren Head. There are multiple Siren Heads. Yep, you heard me right. Henderson has hinted in the past that there may be more than one of these terrors stalking through the pine groves at night. In an informational image uploaded to Twitter, Henderson wrote that multiple head configurations have been seen, but it was unknown whether that meant it could alter its appearance or if they were subspecies that existed. So if you thought you were safe, think again. These things could be anywhere. In addition to Henderson's clever little hint, there have been reports of sightings all over North America. It's also possible that they're adapting to hunt more humans. Some say that they have the ability to adapt to urban environments by mimicking lampposts and other structures. Imagine a pack of these things chasing a poor businessman down the street, arms outstretched. Personally, I welcome our new siren overlords. I just hope they play something good before devouring me. Coming in at number 5, we've got Siren Head is the prototypical siren. No, I don't mean in the seafaring sense, although that would be fairly interesting. Sexy siren heads sitting on rocks playing music to lure sailors to their doom. We'll save that idea for another day. The siren I'm referring to is the invention we all know very well. The loudspeaker-shaped broadcast machine that alerts folks of impending danger. The devices strapped to emergency vehicles, the ones littered across areas with inclement weather. See, there's evidence that supports the idea that humans may have based their siren designs and sounds on Siren Head itself. People have discovered cave paintings featuring Siren Head across North America. These paintings appear to be quite ancient, leading some to assume that Siren Head has been around for centuries. How else could a big siren-headed humanoid appear in drawings from the olden days? If we're gonna take these paintings as fact, we can also assume that Siren Head predates the invention of the modern siren. Could this mean that Siren Head is actually the model in which modern sirens are based? If so, that would explain our visceral fear reaction to hearing the sound a siren makes. There's something about the undulating wailing that warns us of danger and really awakens a primal feeling deep within. Listen to a siren and tell me it doesn't make you want to jump out of your skin a little. Could it be that Siren Head, through use of sirens throughout the ages, has conditioned the human race to fear such a sound? And if so, what better way to make people feel urgency and alarm than by using that very sound in our modern technologies? See, many folks had assumed that Siren had adapted its behavior and appearance to play on our fears, but what if it's the base reason for those fears? Kind of a terrifying idea, isn't it? Coming in at number 4, we've got Siren Head can use sound in different ways. If we're on the topic of sounds that Siren Head makes, we should probably investigate a little further. Most folks are familiar with the general creepy sounds it makes, like broadcasting strange music, snippets of conversation, random numbers, and of course, sirens. It's constantly making noise of some sort, although it does emit white noise while asleep. These aren't dangerous on their own, but Siren Head makes use of them very effectively, deadly effectively. Many people tell tales of these noises being used to confuse human prey. Sometimes the sounds are used to disorient and scare, other times to attract people with familiar sounds. Siren Head has been known to use the voices of loved ones and people in distress to bait folks. More recently, however, Siren Head has been reported to be using sound more destructively. Stories of people being killed with pure sound have been cropping up, and it's unknown how long this ability has been around. There is one account of a whole neighborhood being killed, with each corpse found with ruptured eardrums and burst soft tissue. Oh my. The actual mechanism of death is still unknown. This has also happened in another case where a man was discovered by a park ranger hanging from a tree. When the rescue team finally reached him, they found that he was long dead, exhibiting similar symptoms such as ruptured eardrums and the burst soft tissue, which begs the question, how does Siren Head actually kill people? It also prompts me to wear some earplugs next time I go hiking. Coming in at number 3, we have Siren Head stalks the Backroads. Many urban legends take place in specific locations: bathroom mirrors, specific bodies of water, empty train stations. Siren Head has marked off his urban legend territory: back roads, wooded areas, and rural towns. It's been said you should be especially careful on country roads at night. You never know when something might run out in front of your vehicle. But what's scaring them out there? Definitely don't get out of your car, and if you do, don't follow any mysterious noises. Although, you might not get a chance to investigate if you consider the sound-based death Siren Head can apparently deal. Appearances have also been reported in open fields by passing drivers. At first, it seems to be a scarecrow or a big piece of installation art. A drifter's even claimed to see a telephone pole walking through the woods, playing an old song from hanging speakers. This lines up nicely with the claim that Siren Head likes to make prey of campers and hikers. So make sure wherever you go, you're well prepared. Those easily distracted or lost are often the ones who disappear. Don't make yourself easy pickings. Coming in at number 2, there's more than one? Oh yeah. Evidence is mounting for this idea. Some may say that one Siren Head might be changing its form to more effectively hunt people, but with sightings increasing and more variants being reported, the one and only theory is losing traction. All sorts of folks have reported seeing all sorts of Siren Heads. There's the classic with 2 sirens at the top, or even ones that have many more than that. Some appear as moving power lines or street lamps. I've even seen art of Siren Head neon signs. Although that might just be a concept for now. Add in the variety of locations people have spotted sirens, and we've got a veritable species on our hands. Many sightings have been in Pennsylvania, but reports have come in from all over North America. The cave paintings we mentioned earlier support this claim, with ancient depictions being found in different caves across the continent. And most variants appear to be the same height, but there are shorter ones out there. Rural areas are the preferred hunting ground for Siren Head, but more reports of distinctly suburban sightings have been showing up. They're adapting and spreading and ready to cause problems for all sorts of people. Keep an eye out. And finally, at number 1, they hunt for sport. The most dangerous game, too. Man. Thanks to a handy little fact sheet put out by the man himself, Trevor Henderson, we know that Siren Head does indeed exhibit predatory behavior. However, nobody's quite sure what it gains from the things it kills. It's uncertain as to whether there's a nutritional benefit from hunting, and nobody seems to be clear on what happens to the bodies that disappear following a Siren Head attack. Now, sure, the fact that nobody knows why Siren Heads hunt doesn't mean that they must be hunting for sport, but if you consider the hunting methods it employs, you might reconsider that position. It's clear that Siren Head uses subterfuge and deception to disorient and confuse prey. This could all be a game for the lanky lad. It could all be for fun. It's humanoid in shape, why wouldn't it be humanoid in action? Coming back to that report of the multi-siren creature killing an entire neighborhood, there's another detail that is extra disturbing. If the beast had killed all those folks and consumed them somehow, its motives would be more clear. But all of the corpses were left undisturbed. Why would something kill all those folks and not take any of the bodies? Well, for fun, or maybe to control our population. We're the in-season game right now. And speaking of games, Siren Head often sticks to the woods, yeah? Well, this is good camouflage for it, but if it was food it was looking for, I'd say hikers and campers wouldn't necessarily be a steady source of nutrition. It's possible that Siren Head prefers the woods for the same reason that human hunters from the city do. They like the thrill of it. They don't need to hunt to feed a family, but it's good exercise, and nature is lovely, isn't it? I wouldn't discount the idea that we're just a fun thing to kill for Siren Head. Well, were you ready for all that? Do you believe any of it? Will Siren Head find its way into the hallowed halls of urban legend history? Give it a few more years and maybe a few more mysteries, and maybe it just might. Coming in at number 5, it kills in unexpected ways. Most monsters have a signature kill move, right? They'll eat people or tear them limb from limb or suck the soul right out of their body. But Siren Head? Siren Head is different. We've seen it shambling off in the distance plenty, but to see it actually attack someone is quite rare. getting the moment of death on camera is even less common. So how does Siren Head kill? We won't even begin with the why, because who can say why a monster acts like a monster? Plus, it seems to hunt for fun, which is something nobody wants to think about. While it is hard to catch Siren Head in the act of killing, we can take a look at the messes it leaves behind for some clues. All sorts of different bodies have been discovered over time with plenty of odd outcomes. One famous finding had a victim placed way up in the higher branches of a tree. At first it appeared they had climbed up there to hide, and they were clutching onto the branch for dear life. However, when rescue crews got up and took a closer look, a different story presented itself. The individual up there had been placed there and had something wrong with their head. Their eyes, eardrums, and other assorted soft tissue had been totally blown out, almost as if there was a sound that was simply too loud for the human body to handle. It's not too far of a stretch to say that Siren Head uses sonic weapons when hunting folks down. Like, one would assume that it would pick up someone and tear them apart based on its gigantic physiology and all, but the sound-based violence is another terrifying possibility. This happened again when a larger, more imposing version of Siren Head made its way through a suburban neighborhood. It entered no homes, but all sorts of people around were found dead with similar soft tissue trauma. Now, this isn't to say that Siren Head only kills with sound. It has been seen being more directly, physically violent. It's not even mentioning the weird tooth-filled mouth found inside its sirens. So yeah, Siren Head can kill you in all sorts of different ways, and there isn't all that much you can do about it. Isn't that fun to think about? Coming in at number 4, we've got most Siren Head games are bootlegs. You heard it here first, folks. If you find a Siren Head game on the Play Store or maybe come across a crazy itch.io experience, you're probably looking at an unofficial, unvenerated recreation of Siren Head. You've kind of got to expect that at this point. We're in the age of infinite content online, and people are happy to make whatever will please the masses. Sometimes there's a genuine love for the horror creature behind the scenes, and sometimes it's a quick cash-in by someone who knows how to work with 3D models. When the Siren Head boom began way back when, the first really popular game to feature the lanky lad was the PS1-style Modus Interactive number. It came out all the way back in October 2018 and was a submission to a Halloween-themed game jam. It's hard to believe that Siren Head's been around that long, eh? The folks behind this game got Trevor Henderson's blessing and didn't charge people any money to play it. Since then, things have got a little muddy. It seems that a brand new, and by brand new I mean thinly veiled ripoff, another popular game, Siren Head game, pops up every week, often attached to sketchy promises of commercial releases. In fact, there's a whole subset of Siren Head bootleg drama that I don't feel like getting into today. Needless to say, unless Trevor himself is endorsing a Siren Head game, you can probably consider it a shameless cash-in. The irony of saying that is not lost on me, folks, don't you worry. And don't get me started on the Siren Head mods for Minecraft and Roblox. I mean, some do present a base resemblance of the iconic horror creature, but others are just kind of lame. Let's leave it at that. Coming in at number 3, we've got Siren Head could kick Slender Man's butt. Controversial, I know, but you can't just bring up one without comparing it to the other these days. They're both tall, they're both creepy, they're both found in the woods, they're both born from the chaotic internet mythos of horror. But Siren Head is the newest iteration, and it's been rebuilt faster, better, stronger. And while Slenderman probably had a more organic rise to fame, with a few more extremely creepy web series relying less on jump scares and oversaturation, Siren Head is the apex predator here. Maybe they could live together in some sort of symbiotic harmony, but if the latter of the two decided that it wanted to go solo, there'd be no questioning the victor. Slenderman does a pretty good job of stalking folks and making them paranoid, for sure. He can cause descent into madness like no other and tends to amass a mindless following with ease. However, these kinds of things are mostly dangerous to humans. Siren Head, on the other hand, is an absolute unit. Tall as a telephone pole, covered in hardened skin stuff, and able to bust people's soft tissue no problem, it would handily win any fight against any pale, tall person. Plus, there may or may not be many different Siren Heads out there, so there's a numbers game to consider as well. You can argue for hours over who's scarier and what the cooler creature truly is, but you can't deny the true supernatural power that Siren Head holds. I doubt Slenderman could even phase the loud lad. Coming in at number 2, we've got Siren Head is not an SCP. You may have heard this before, but it bears repeating. Siren Head is not an SCP. Siren Head is a copyrighted creature made by Trevor Henderson. However, it's been closely associated with the SCP Foundation, I suppose because they're both creepy and therefore has a lot of folks convinced that it is indeed an anomaly. Despite numerous efforts by those who know better, the Siren Head SCP Brigade continues to staunchly believe that it is an SCP, and if it's not an SCP, then someday it will be. Again, I must dissuade you of these illusions. Siren Head is its own creature, entirely separate from the collaborative writing community that makes up the SCP universe. Now, some of you might be thinking, hey, what if someone decided to write up a Siren Head SCP entry and it got vetted as an official SCP anomaly? And to that I say, I guess. But in the end, it's extremely unlikely that the scenario would happen. so don't think too much about that one. And finally, at number 1, we've got Siren Head is heading into cities. That's right. Way back in the far-off year of 2018, Siren Head had made waves, and by waves I mean noises in the woods. That's where you could find this fascinating creature. It was forest-based through and through, eating hikers, confusing campers, and luring children away from their rural homes. That's where it seemed scariest. It could blend in with the trees, as most folks would likely just mistake its body for another tree trunk. Plus, it's unlikely that anyone would look up and see the sirens. Add in its unearthly ability to stay still for extended periods of time, and you've got a forest predator extraordinaire. However, it can't just stay there forever, now can it? Soon enough, folks would feel a little too safe in their suburban homes and urban apartments. Siren Head would have to hoof it to somewhere new. A lot of art, especially that coming from the official source, now depicts Siren Head taking on new forms and venturing into the suburbs and urbs. It might take the form of a telephone pole or a streetlight or any other piece of common infrastructure. One might think that it would be easy to pick out a monster like that in the city because it has nowhere to hide. But to that, Siren Head asks when the last time you really looked up to the top of a streetlight was. Urban camouflage taking advantage of our daily complacency. Now that's scary. Are your ears perked up, straining to catch the slightest echo of a siren now? Yeah, me too. It's a hard world out there for a monster knower.